Hello and welcome back to another research recap. My name is Lisa, I'm your host. I am the owner and operator of Nutrition Coaching and Life, where we help people lose body fat, gain muscle, and improve their body composition and relationship with food. Today, I want to talk about what is better for fat loss, weighing in daily or weighing in almost every day. Something that might be relevant to the other coaches out there as well, or even to yourself in regards to your own weight loss journey. If you enjoy these kind of research recaps where I talk about some of the latest research, please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. I love having people comment on things as well or request certain topics. So if anything comes to mind, please don't hesitate to contact me on here, or of course also on Instagram, or sending me an email. Anyway, I would love to get in touch or connect with you. Anyway, so today's paper today we are actually looking at or reading from a research review called Body by Science. This is Bill Campbell's work. I love his research review where he also digs into the latest studies and he just makes them really, really digestible. I have had the experience with, or have had some experience with, other research reviews which I also really highly value, such as the Ellen Aragon research review or Mass or Reps, but this one is really one of my favorites, and I think today's topic is really important, and this was in the November issue of Body by Science. I will drop a link in the show notes so you can go and check it out. It's only $7.99 per month or something like that. I'm not associated with or affiliated with the product, but I just really, really love it. So in any case, the title I've already given you, but the actual study reviewed was titled Weighing Every Day Matters. Daily weighing improves weight loss and adoption of weight control behaviors. So kind of spoiler alert here. This was a study done by Steinberg et al. In 2015. So just to give you a little bit of a background information, here's an introduction. The most successful fat loss treatments often include self-monitoring elements to increase self-awareness around how behaviors, such as calorie intake and physical activity, impact body weight. A theory has been created around this concept of self-monitoring, self-regulation theory, and this is what the self-regulation theory entails. It suggests that individuals are better able to self-regulate important behaviors when they self-monitor and evaluate current behaviors compared to their goals. This reinforces current behavior and allows for self-correction. So for example, in nutrition coaching, that's not just why we weigh in, but we also track our calories, or we take measurements and all these sorts of things, or we monitor stress, we monitor sleep, and so on. Again, stated another way, the self-regulation theory is defined as the ability of people to control their behavior, feelings, and thoughts. Self-regulation comes into play when people adjust their actions to meet personal goals, which is what most people want to do, or many people want to do, especially when we get closer to the end of the year or closer to the new year. We know that self-monitoring is important to changing behaviors. Daily self-weighing is a widespread self-monitoring strategy for people wanting to lose body fat. It's important to note that there is nothing magical or material about stepping on the scale each day, so weighing in. It's not like stepping on the scale causes pounds to just melt away. However, weighing in is associated with greater adoption of diet and exercise behaviors that promote fat loss. So basically, every time you step on the scale, you might get reminded of, maybe I shouldn't have 2 donuts for breakfast. So weighing in leverages and promotes the adoption of the behavior traits that induce fat loss, increased calorie expenditure from exercise, and adhering to a calorie deficit over time. Past research has not only confirmed that weighing in is important for weight loss, but more frequent weighing is more effective than less frequent weigh-ins. Of course, to an extent, we don't want you to step on the scale 3 times per day. There's absolutely no point to that. The question that does need to be asked is this: is weighing in every day the best strategy for fat loss success, or can we get the same fat loss outcomes with something less than everyday weigh-ins? The suggestion of instructing clients to weigh in every day is sometimes met with contempt. Here's a condensed comment we received from someone who did not like, I'm just reading here off, who did not like the research that we shared about daily weigh-ins. being superior to weekly weigh-ins. Wow, as a clinician who has been working in obesity prevention for 30 plus years, I could not disagree more. This is encouraging obsessive behavior that 100% changes the trajectory of the mental state of a person if the scale does not reveal or match their perceived effort. We cannot recommend this as it is a false indication of what is real. I recommend 1 time per week at most. Daily weighing is a disaster in the world of weight management, obesity prevention, and you cannot discount the psychological impact of these recommendations. I have actually heard something similar from other people before, or even from clients initially. I will share my personal perspective on this later on. I don't want this to interfere with the contents of the study. I do think that rare weighing in, so like once a month or once a week, sometimes places too much emphasis on that one weigh-in, and it causes us to discount daily fluctuations, weekly fluctuations, and so on. So once a week, in my opinion, or less is actually worse than, other things. But anyway, I'll get into that later. So this person was quite animated, obviously. They were making an assumption that daily weigh-ins would encourage obsessive behavior and an adverse mental state. I think it also really, really depends on the individual, like what sort of relationship do you bring with you when it comes to your relationship to the scale already? What sort of personality do you even have in the sense of do you easily get obsessive with anything, not just the scale? But yes, so there are several layers to this. And while we do, of course, not want to encourage obsessive behavior or give advice that adversely affects mental health, we also can't make assumptions that this will happen to everyone. Or if it does, where is the evidence to even support this? So the first thing we do need to do is to determine the ideal frequency of weighing in on average for fat loss. And once we have this knowledge, we can determine the best method of application to our clients based on their unique situations and tendencies, and which we would only know based on the relationship we have built with them, of course. So in this particular study, who was in the study? We have 47 overweight adults, so 24 males and 23 females between the ages of 18 and 60. Sorry. The average age was therefore 43. The subjects had to be relatively healthy, so no medical conditions that might affect their participation. They had to have internet access and be classified as overweight or obese at the start of the study. The average BMI value for the subjects was 33.2. So to better characterize the weighing behaviors of the participants before the start of the study, the researchers assessed weighing frequency over the previous 3 months via a self-report questionnaire. At baseline, the subjects reported their weighing in frequency as 11% weight in daily, 37% weight in weekly, and 52% weight in less than weekly. So what did the researchers actually do? The data that the researchers used for this study actually came from a previous study in which there were 2 groups of subjects. One group of subjects who were told to weigh themselves every single day, and they were given home scales for 6 months, and another group of subjects who were not given any instructions or scales during the 6 months intervention. Only the group of subjects that were provided with scales and instructed to weigh themselves daily were included in this study's analysis. As you can imagine, even though the subjects were instructed to weigh themselves every day for 6 months, not all of them did, clearly, because the body weight scales provided to the subjects were internet connected, which transmitted the data to the researchers. They had immediate access to the subjects' frequency of daily weigh-ins and their body weight data. From this perspective, the study was very well conducted, and from the data collected, the researchers categorized the subjects into 2 groups based on their frequency of weighing in. So the subjects with an average weighing in frequency of 7 days per week, and subjects with an average weighing of anything less than 7 days per week. So to summarize it and present the data from the study, we just had the two groups, every day and most days. That was 24 in the everyday group and 23 in the most day group. Other study details were that when the subjects weighed in, their body weight data was automatically transferred to a website displaying individualized weight change graphs over time. The subjects were able to log on to the website and view these graphs. The subjects were also, they also received weekly emails from the research team that gave them feedback on self-weighing frequency and their weight loss progress. The emails also included behavioral weight control lessons that provided evidence-based strategies for weight loss, so that's great. What physique-related outcome variables were measured? There were only two body composition outcome measures assessed in this study. The first one is the absolute weight loss, and the second one is the percentage of body weight lost. In addition to these body weight data, the researchers assessed weight control behaviors by having the subjects fill out two different questionnaires, one at baseline and one at the end of the study. The first questionnaire assessed eating and exercise behaviors associated with producing a calorie deficit for weight loss. To assess the frequent engagement of these eating and exercise behaviors, which is suggestive of adoption, the researchers dictamized the items to examine those who engaged in the behaviors at least much of the time. The other questionnaire assessed the adoption of dietary weight control behaviors, typically targeted in weight loss programs and known to be associated with weight loss. At baseline and 6 months, calorie intake was measured via two 24-hour recall surveys. Of course, they're not super accurate, we know that, but I mean, they're a tool and kind of rather frequently used in the nutrition research space, let's put it that way. An exercise habits questionnaire was administered weekly to estimate weekly energy expenditure from leisure time physical activity as well. So, what was the main purpose of the study? As we look at the results of the study, remember what we're looking at. Researchers told subjects in a previous weight loss study to weigh themselves every day. That was the intervention group. Versus another group of subjects who were told not to weigh themselves, the control group. The study we're reviewing here was an extension of that original study in that the researchers focused on analyzing the frequency of the intervention groups weigh-ins to see if there were any differences in those who weighed themselves more frequently every day of the week or less frequently and something less than every day of the week. All the subjects received the same information about making behavior changes necessary to achieve weight loss. Therefore, the only difference between the two groups analyzed in this group was the frequency and consistency of weighing in. So let's look at the body weight results. The everyday group weighed themselves every day, logically, and most days groups weighed themselves an average of 5.4 times per week. Before we looked at the results of the study, we would have been shocked that a weigh-in difference of less than 2 times per week would have any difference in weight loss outcome. But we could see if someone who only weighed in 1 or 2 days per week compared to 7 days per week, it would be nice to see that if that would make even bigger of a difference, but we don't have that data, I guess. Nonetheless, let's look at the everyday group. They lost significantly more body weight than the most days group. Here we have the result. Specifically, the everyday group lost 20 pounds, so 9.2 kilos, while the most days group lost only 7 pounds. So, that's over the course of 6 months, right? So that is a good amount, really. In terms of the everyday group, that is nearly a pound per week. In terms of percentages, let's look at this. The there was nothing magical about stepping on the scale. We have already discussed that. But yeah, in terms of this percentages, the everyday group lost 9.4% of their initial body weight, and the most days group lost 3.2. So, almost 3 times the amount is what the everyday group lost. Again, there was nothing magical about stepping on the scale and its ability to induce weight loss. It wasn't like stepping on the scale elevated resting metabolic heart rate by 800% or something like that, or caused a literal melting of body fat to occur. What happened when stepping on the scale every day is that it caused the subjects to engage more frequently in weight control behaviors associated with weight loss. Stepping on the scale every day did not directly cause the weight loss, but it was associated with weight loss behaviors that do cause weight loss. In fact, many significant improvements in behaviors associated with weight loss were attributed to daily weigh-ins. The following table summarizes the statistically significant results obtained from the questionnaires used in the studies. So, for example, small changes in calorie intake, obviously, otherwise they would not have lost more body weight. Reduced snacks between meals, reduced the number of times that they ate out, they reduced the frequency or portion sizes of desserts, they reduced the amount of times watching television, they exercised for a period of at least 30% or more. So all these things were better for weight loss or for fat loss in the everyday group. The estimated calorie intake and caloric expenditure also favored the everyday group, but the differences were not statistically significant between the everyday group and the most days group. So it was a bit of a difference from the end of the group. This is, of course, in averages. And at the baseline, the average intake was 2,015 for both groups. And at the end of the study, 1,415 for the everyday group and 1,665 for the most day group. So reflecting on the results of their study, the researchers made the following statement. Within the context of a daily self-weighing weight loss intervention, individuals who weighed every day achieved clinically meaningful weight loss that was significantly greater than among those weighing less than daily. The likely reason for this difference is that daily weighers reported greater adoption of weight control behaviors compared to those who weighed less often. Even weighing 5 days a week, which was the average among the non-daily weighers, led to smaller weight losses and promoted less utilization of behaviors known to be associated with weight loss. This suggests that daily weighing may trigger the self-regulatory processes that promote behavior change. So a few strengths and a few limitations of the study. In terms of the strengths, so the confirmation of the daily weigh-ins, a major strength of this study was the use of an objective weight measurement. Historically, many studies rely on self-report, trusting that subjects weighed in when they say they did, to compare daily to weekly weigh-ins. Because the weigh-ins were objective and able to be confirmed, the researchers could examine differences between weighing daily and most days of the week. Another strength was that discouraged subjects from tracking diet and exercise behavior. So we've never listed a lack of tracking as a strength, but in this particular study, there would have been some that probably would have done that and others that didn't. And so while they would have known which subjects tracked consistently and which ones did not, the weight loss differences observed with this added task, like it would have just been another variable. So this is actually something positive here where we can literally just trace it back to the weighing in. Now, a study limitation would be perhaps the caloric intake methodology. So one of the strengths of the study was that the researchers did not require the subjects to track their macros, as I literally just said. But the researchers did obtain an estimate of caloric intake from a 2-day, 24-hour recall survey. This is accomplished by asking the subjects to remember everything they ate in the last 24 hours. It's good that the researchers had a plan for attempting to determine how many calories the subjects were consuming during the study, but it would have been better to use a more valid method obtaining this data, for example, doubly labeled water or something like that. And also, there was no assessment of the body composition. So there was no assessment of body fat or lean mass in the study. And while we can assume that body fat was the main tissue lost, maybe like 75% of all the body weight lost, it would have been great if the researchers had assessed body composition at the beginning and at the end of the study to confirm the composition of weight lost and if there were any differences between the two groups. So now let's get into a little bit of a discussion here. Firstly, what feedback do you use with your clients to monitor weight loss success? Weighing in, body composition, other feedback, etc. And if you require weighing in, how often do you recommend that they do this? And do you make exceptions for some clients? So I think really good questions. And if you watching are also a coach, I would love to hear, so comment. But if you watching are just someone who perhaps has also worked with a nutrition coach, maybe you can also brainstorm if you have different experiences with different people. So I personally have had coaches as well, some of which have required me to weigh in weekly, some of which twice a week, some of which recommended every day. So I've really had the whole spectrum. And for my own clients and what we do at Nutrition Coaching and Life is that we recommend weighing in at least 3 times per week. Based on this, I might change the recommendation, but at least 3 times per week in order to get a bit of a weekly average. Again, earlier on, I was alluding to the fact that we just have to assume that there are going to be daily fluctuations. We're not machines, so there are going to be fluctuations based on carb intake, sodium intake, hydration, sleep, stress, training, like how hard we train, any kind of inflammation in the body. And if we just weigh in once per week, we might catch the day where the weight was the highest and then think, we're not making any progress. Or vice versa, we might catch the day where the weight was the very lowest and think like, oh wow, I lost 2 pounds this week, and then the next week no change, even though the weekly average continued to go down or so. So that's my issue with only weighing in once a week. And the other issue when it comes to even longer times between not weighing in, I also alluded to earlier, is just that I think we place so much mental emphasis on that one weigh in. If we only weigh in every 3 months or whatever, and it's kind of like we're closing our eyes to what's actually going on. I get that stepping on the scale is just a little bit annoying sometimes, and for some people it can trigger something if we're just really, really tied to a specific number on the scale, but that's probably something also we should be working on excuse me as opposed to trying to ignore it. And like I feel like when people step on the scale every day, they actually learn to literally just see it as data and to get to know their body even better. So for example, if you have a higher fluctuation and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm ovulating in 3 days, that makes complete sense. Or I had a really crappy night's sleep last night, that makes complete sense, as opposed to freaking out about it. So because of that, we do also track other feedback, as it is in the question here. So we track sleep, the amount of sleep. I do like getting quality of sleep as well if people have, an Oura ring, or just make a note on that. We track training, like what time of the day they train and what type of training. I do give people like a notes section in their Excel spreadsheet where they can add things like I had a really busy day or had a deadline at work or whatever. We also track mood and motivation to train, because if that goes down, then we kind of know that there's something else going on, or we should pull out of the deficit, or like there's lots of other things connected with that. And we actually take measurements only once a month and pictures also only once a month. I personally have had coaches that wanted me to take pictures every single week, and I think that makes complete sense if you're If you have a more specific goal, like a photo shoot or like definitely a contest prep, then we want to weigh in every single day. But yeah, for me, I think taking pictures every 2 weeks or so is quite sufficient most of the time. So, yeah, that's kind of what we do here. I am curious if you have some input on this as well, like what you're personally finding. And many of the people that start working with us initially, they're like, oh, I don't want to weigh in every day. I have, it kind of triggers me in my mood. What I always recommend, so first of all, we need to make sure that you're weighing in at the same time every single day. There's no point of you weighing in at 6 a.m. one day and then 9 a.m. after you've been to the bathroom, or before or after your first meal. So we need to make sure we don't have anything in our stomach um, even before you drink anything, ideally. And then also just ideally making sure you're aware, you're thinking about how am I actually feeling before you even step on it. Like, I think what could have been good about this scale, it sounds like they might not even have had to register anything and to note it down, but it was like automatically registered online. And that could be helpful for someone that feels super triggered but just wants to get into the routine of stepping on it. At first, maybe stepping on it without even looking, or with only looking occasionally or so, and you're still collecting the data, and you can still just look at the weekly average at the end of it, and then kind of taking your fear away from that more and more so. But I have found that if someone initially had a fear of stepping on the scale, weighing in more frequently actually helps. That's just my experience. Again, I highly recommend checking out Body by Science, this issue in particular, November. Also, I will link the full article or the full study in the show notes, of course, and just the link to my email if you have any further questions. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you having you here, and I wish you a great rest of your day.